But what worries me is that we're now faced with a set of potential revisions which are not scientifically justified, in my opinion, but they're coming from an area which is much more dogma than objective science. And whilst ultimately people will decide whether they want those restrictions, we just want to make people aware of the likely implications of those decisions. And one of them is a future where resistance problems are far more accentuated than they are at the moment, because we just don't have the variety of compounds at our disposal. It's been said today, none of us are opposed to legislation. I think good legislation is to the benefit of everyone, the consumer, the producer, industry, and I think over the last 20 years we've come up with a very, very good, tight system of legislation in Europe, which provides the incentive for the agrochemical industry to produce new compounds. They're not completely stifled from doing so, but it provides a very strict series of constraints through which they have to operate. And so the compounds that are coming through the system now are incredibly safe, basically, and they're incredibly important. And we have to maintain that throughput of new compounds. We have to protect the older compounds. We shouldn't be contemplating just disposing of them for arbitrary reasons. There have to be very good scientific reasons for getting rid of them. But ultimately, the larger the variety of modes of action, and that's very different from saying the larger the number of products, simply. The larger the number of modes of action, the better placed we will be to stave off resistance and ensure the sustainability of the elements of crop protection strategies that continue to depend on chemicals.
I think that will be a tremendous change in our possibilities to control pests, especially the Parliament have to think in the agriculture of the south of Europe that we have more problems with insects, and with this review we'll have fewer and fewer compounds, and when, for example, for some pests we will have just one insecticide. So this insecticide we apply 4 or 5 times, so will be
resistance starts.
Of course, so we have no tools for manage pests. So we know in Spain that we can manage some crops with biological control agents, and we know to do this very well. We have some crops like sweet pepper, for example, that we can control pests with other insects or other mites, so without almost any insecticides. But not always this is possible.
In terms of European legislation, what we see is that the growers are faced with more and more difficulties in having tools, having products to enable them to control major problems in their crops. And certainly from a resistance point of view, I'm concerned that growers will not be able to manage the problems of resistance in their crops in the future. I'm increasingly concerned because there seems to be a big chance that really useful products that can be used in the fight against the fight to maintain crop yields are going to be lost without real consideration of their scientific value. So they are being lost for arbitrary reasons, and it is quite possible that some of these products that will be lost according to the new legislation will leave growers with nothing left to manage their diseases.
In Denmark we have had a long history of shortage of products already, and I think we have seen over the years that actually a lot of the growers already feel this shortage on their daily life, so they have problems sometimes in coping with control of pest problems. And if the EU registration means that we will have even further products than we already have today, then I think I could foresee that we have further problems actually in managing some of the pest and disease problems. In most cases I would agree that the legislation I think protect us from having bad stories where they have impact on health and environment. But sometimes we are up to surprises that new issues are coming on, like the endocrine disruptors, which indicates that scientists have not known everything right from the beginning. New science is being built and teaching us new things about the pesticides. So we should be not taking anything for granted. We should be cautious the way we handle them.